The misty hills of the Black Sea blanketed Kavakla village as dawn broke. In this small place, everyone knew everyone else, and everyone's secrets. But some secrets were too dark, too dangerous to speak aloud, and that's how the story of the Sam family began. Ali Yashar Cham was an old generation patriarch, a man whose word was law. He lived with his wife, Ayla, and their 7 children. Their home looked like any other, but its walls had heard screams no one dared to mention. In this village, arranged marriages were a tradition. Hassan Shukru Cham, one of Ali Yashar's sons, was married to a quiet young woman named Nazmiye. Beautiful, yet reserved, she soon discovered that marriage into the Cham family wasn't a blessing, it was a sentence. Hassan Shukru stayed away for long periods, working odd jobs. Nazmiye, left behind with her in-laws, began feeling trapped. Ali Yashar's authority was suffocating. Even his wife obeyed in silence. Slowly, Nazmiye realized that this was not just a strict household. It was a prison. Whispers began spreading through the village. People said strange things were happening inside the Cham home. Forbidden relationships, broken moral lines. The rumors grew like wildfire. One afternoon, a neighbor found Nazmiye crying. "What's wrong, Nazmiye?" she asked. Nazmiye just whispered, "It's hard to live here," and walked away. It was the calm before the storm. Years later, the family moved to a nearby town trying to escape the gossip, but shadows follow where secrets go. On November 2nd, 2009, Nazmiye left home to pick up her 5-year-old son, Umut, from school. She never came back. That night, neighbors grew uneasy. The next morning, villagers found little Umut wandering alone near the Dalaka road, barefoot, trembling, and silent. Nazmiye was nowhere to be found. 5 days later, on November 7th, a police officer walking near Vakfakebir spotted something beneath a bridge. A woman's body, washed ashore by the waves. It was Nazmiye Cham. At first, it looked like suicide, but the autopsy shattered that theory. Her skull was fractured, her body showed severe bruises. Nazmiye hadn't taken her own life, she'd been murdered. Police detained 7 family members, including Nazmiye's husband Hassan Shukru, her father-in-law Ali Yashar, and brother-in-law Amit. Then came the confession that froze everyone. Ali Yashar admitted, "I had a relationship with my daughter-in-law for 4 years. People started talking. It became a matter of honor. I told my sons, we must end this. And we did." He continued coldly. "We tied her hands. We hit her on the head with an iron bar. Then we threw her body into the sea." Even the police were horrified. 17-year-old Amit confirmed his father's words. "Everyone knew my father and sister-in-law were together." He said, "We must stop her. She begged us to let her go, but we didn't." When investigators questioned Ali Yashar's wife, Ayla, her decades of silence finally broke. "I knew everything," she confessed. "For years I was too afraid to speak. My husband controlled everyone, even the children." After the murder, the Cham family split in 2. On one side, the father and the eldest son, Hassan Shukru. On the other, the mother Ayla, the younger son Amit, and the daughters Zara, Behiye, and Hava. But the nightmare wasn't over. Soon after the trial began, a new scandal shook the entire village. Hava, one of the daughters, was pregnant, but there was no husband, no engagement. Rumors spread again. And this time, the whispers pointed to her own brother. DNA tests were inconclusive, but a relative named Eunice confessed, "Yes, I was with Hava," he said, then added, "But she was also with her brother Amit." The revelation stunned the entire country. Boundaries within the Cham family had completely collapsed. When the truth about Nazmiye's murder came out, the Cham family was no longer a family. It was a battlefield. Blood ties that once meant loyalty now tasted like poison. Inside the house where once the sound of children's laughter echoed, there was only the heavy silence of guilt. Ali Yashar, the father, a man who had ruled through fear, now sat in a cell, his name whispered with disgust across every valley of the Black Sea. His eldest son, Hassan Shukru, tried to act as if he were innocent, but the village had already judged him, and the mother, Ayla, walked like a ghost, a woman crushed between the shame of her husband's sins and the burden of her children's crimes. Neighbors no longer came to the door. The Sam house, once the center of the village, became a cursed place. Windows closed, doors bolted, whispers drifting through the fog. At night, people claimed they saw lights flickering in the upper room where Nazmiye once slept. Others swore they heard crying, soft, desperate, like the house itself was mourning. The family fractured into two camps. On one side stood Ali Yashar and his eldest son, Hassan Shukru, still insisting the whole thing had been a misunderstanding, blaming the gossip of villagers. On the other side, Ayla, Amit, and the daughters Hava, Zara, and Behiye, tired of years of fear and lies, began speaking out. But even this fragile truth couldn't survive what came next. Months after Nazmiye's burial, a new rumor spread through the village, darker than anything before. Hava, the youngest daughter of the Cham family, was pregnant. No one knew who the father was. At first, the village kept quiet. People thought she had been taken advantage of, or perhaps fallen in love secretly. But then came whispers that made even the bravest men cross themselves. The name being spoken was Amit, her own brother. When this rumor reached the authorities, it was no longer gossip. It was a scandal that would stain generations. DNA tests were ordered. Family members were summoned one by one. The Sam name, already synonymous with tragedy, now stood for something far worse: corruption of blood, sin within sin. During questioning, a relative, Eunice, broke down and admitted, "Yes, I had a relationship with Hava," he said, trembling. But she was also with her brother, Amit. By the time the Cham family stood before the court, their name had become a curse whispered across Turkey. In the mountain villages of the Black Sea, people spoke of them not as neighbors, but as a warning. The case of Nazmiye Cham was no longer just a murder story. It had become a symbol of everything that happens when silence, shame, and power devour a family from within. The courthouse in Trabzon was packed on the day the hearings began. Journalists filled every corner, their cameras waiting to capture faces that once hid behind the misty hills of Kavakla. Ayla, the mother, sat with trembling hands. Her scarf was pulled low over her face, her eyes empty from too many years of secrets. Her sons, Hassan Shukru and Amit, avoided her gaze, and at the center of it all sat Ali Yashar Cham, the patriarch, the man whose authority had built the family and whose sins had destroyed it. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. Every movement echoed: the shuffle of papers, the faint sob of a woman in the back, the click of a handcuff chain. For the first time, the Sam family wasn't in control of the story. The truth was now in the hands of the law. The prosecution laid out the evidence, chilling, methodical, undeniable. Witness statements, old letters, autopsy photographs. The court was shown pictures of Nazmiye's injuries: her fractured skull, the bruises around her arms, and the salt-stained wounds from where her body had been thrown into the sea. Each image cut through the courtroom like a blade. Then came the confessions and the retractions. Ali Yashar's recorded statement was played aloud. I had a relationship with my daughter-in-law for 4 years. It became a matter of honor. I told my sons, we must end this. We tied her hands, struck her head, and threw her body into the sea. The words sent a shiver through everyone listening. But when questioned again in court, Ali Yashar denied everything. They made me say it, he shouted. The police forced me. I did nothing. His son Hassan joined in, echoing the same claim, that the confessions were lies taken under pressure. Ahmet, now older but still with the same hollow eyes, said nothing at all. He just stared at the floor, lips pressed together, as if speaking would set off another tragedy. The courtroom had never felt colder. For months the trial continued. Witnesses were called. Neighbors described nights of shouting, strange movements, and the heavy smell of gasoline from the Sam property. One testified that Nazmiye had come to her just days before her death, crying, saying, "If something happens to me, promise you'll take care of my children." That single sentence silenced the courtroom more than any lawyer's argument ever could. As the case dragged on, the media turned it into a national spectacle. The Sam family's photographs were on every front page. Once private faces, now infamous across the country. In talk shows and morning news programs, people debated whether the motive was honor, fear, or revenge. But those who truly knew the family, the people from Kavakla, said one thing quietly. It was the silence that killed her. Finally, after 8 years of confusion, retrials, and contradictions, the Trabzon First High Criminal Court reached its decision. The date was 2017. The room filled with reporters, lawyers, and the surviving members of the Sam family. The last remnants of a tragedy that had already claimed too many lives. The judge read the verdict in a voice that carried no emotion. The court finds Ali Yashar Cham and Hassan Shukru Cham guilty of premeditated murder. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Each is sentenced to life imprisonment, reduced from aggravated life due to conduct during trial. The silence that followed was unbearable. Then came the next blow. The court sentences Ahmet Cham, a minor at the time of the crime, to 20 years in prison. Ayla, the mother, broke down completely. Her cry echoed through the courtroom, not just of grief, but of decades of suppressed guilt. It was the sound of a soul breaking. Years passed. Behind prison walls, the men of the Sam family continued to deny their guilt. Ali Yashar grew old and frail, still insisting he was innocent. Hassan wrote letters begging for appeal. Ahmet tried 5 times to give new statements, but every time when the tape recorder clicked on, he froze. No words, just silence. And in the village of Kavakla, the old house still stood. Its windows boarded, its garden overgrown. Children passing by threw stones at it, calling it the House of Shame. At night, locals swore they saw shadows moving inside, as if the ghosts of Nazmiye and her lost truth still wandered through those walls. The case was over, the verdict delivered. But justice, real justice, never truly came. Because in the story of the Sam family, no one really won. Not the law, not the victims, not even vengeance. Only silence endured. The same silence that had begun it all.